So in this video, we're going to talk about the first group of sons who are raptured into heaven. I encourage you to watch the first video in this series. This is where I am actually challenging the traditional 7-year tribulation, rapture of the bride, marriage supper of the Lamb, things that we've been taught but aren't necessarily part of the story of Revelation. So Revelation is the book that tells us the story of the end, 22 chapters of the story of how believers get to heaven, how we end up in God's presence. The book of Revelation actually shows us 3 groups of raptured sons, and we're going to look at each of these groups separately. They're the 24 elders, the 144,000 of Israel, and another group of raptured sons that I call the God-fearers. The 24 elders are associated with a place. They're associated with the throne room. They're in God's throne room in Revelation chapter 4. I'm not going to go through and read all of these passages because you can read and you have a Bible. I encourage you to open up your Bible to Revelation 4. Here we have these people who are kings and priests seated in God's presence, worshiping God, casting their crowns before him. And in Revelation 5, we see them actually begin their ministry of intercession. They also have a song that only they sing. And that is going to be one of the characteristics of each of these groups, is they have a song. One of the things I discovered along the way is that the rapture of each of these groups, or when they are caught up, what we may find is that there's a passage that talks about these people, the elders, ending up in heaven, but it's not like Revelation 3. It's not Revelation 4. It's going to be found somewhere else in the book. And remember, Revelation is a series of small visions that are all interrelated, and it's not chronological. The story is not told chronologically. We're told how this is going to work when we read Revelation chapter 1 about John being in the Spirit on the Lord's day. And of course, that's an allusion back to Ezekiel, when Ezekiel was in the Spirit. And what happens when someone is in the Spirit is they become a time traveler. They can go between realms, between the earth and heaven. They can also go through time. And John certainly went from where he was on the Isle of Patmos all the way to the end after the millennium. So he time traveled through these events, but they aren't in order. Different visions are going to be out of order. And anybody who's taught Revelation understands that. Okay, you kind of intuitively know that things are out of order. And that's one of the challenges then, is to be able to think in terms of we're going back and forth in time and space. So make a note of the throne room, because this throne room appearance is going to be associated with their rapture. We see them there, but how did they get there? And that is going to be told actually later on in the book. When we get to Revelation chapter 12, we're going to read about a woman who's in travail, a woman who's in agony to give birth. We're going to read about how the dragon stands before the woman, how he takes his tail and he casts 1/3 of the stars to the earth. We're going to read about how the child is born. This is actually a firstborn child. The woman has other offspring. Revelation 12 will tell us later on. It's a firstborn son. Firstborn sons belong to God, so they have a right to be in his presence. And this male child is born. Then the dragon tries to devour it. We're told that the male child will rule all nations with a rod of iron. And then we're told that the child is caught up to God and to his throne. He's caught up to God and to his throne, 24 elders' throne room. We're told he's going to rule. 24 elders are pictured as kings. They're going to rule with a rod of iron. Okay. And in Revelation chapter 2, in the letter to the church of Thyatira, we read that for those who overcome, they are going to rule with a rod of iron. So Christ shares that ruling with a rod of iron with his people. Okay, just like The spirit that was on Moses was placed on the 70 elders so that they could rule together. Of course, Moses was higher up on the food chain, higher up in the hierarchy. Jesus is going to allow his elders to rule with him. So this story then, the story of this male child who's caught up to the throne of God, who is going to rule, is connected with the 24 elders. A lot of people won't make that connection because they think of the story as being totally chronological when it's not. So this male child who's going to rule with a rod of iron, who's going to rule with Christ as a fellow elder with him, who is present in the throne room of God, is going to be caught up to God and to his throne. Now, here's the part that's interesting. When we read about the male child in Revelation 12, the rapture of this particular group, okay, and this male child represents a group of people, okay, just like the woman is going to represent a group of people. The woman is going to represent Israel, who is going to flee into the wilderness, okay. It's not one lady who runs into the wilderness, it's a group, okay, and the male child represents a group of people, a group of sons. It's not just one baby, it's not just 24 elders. And I talked about what the number 24 represents. The context of the rapture, the birth and the rapture of this male child, is in the context of what we call the sign, or what I call the sign of the dragon. And this sign followed the first sign, which was the great sign of Revelation 12, 1 and 2. You know, for the most part, people don't talk about that great sign, although it's back on the radar again because the 8th anniversary of the great sign that happened in 2017 is happening this year in 2025, when the Feast of Trumpets is going to fall on September 23rd, which is kind of an interesting coincidence. But because the rapture, the birth and the rapture of the male child is part of a sign, we know that his birth and rapture is not signless. It's not signless, and in fact, there's already been one sign. And we're waiting for a second sign. And the rapture of this male child is in conjunction with a sign. I'm not going to talk about the sign in this video because I've done videos on the sign of the dragon. It is an actual sign. It's depicting something very interesting, including a war in Israel, the travail of the woman. Travail is a war or an invasion. The woman is Israel, including the remnant of Israel who will flee into the wilderness later on. And there's more that goes with the sign of the dragon, including the days of Noah. Where many people teach that the rapture of the church or the rapture of the bride is signless, it's imminent, that there's no way we can know when that will happen. Because of this sign of the dragon, when we see this happening, and it had to happen sometime after the first sign, it's not a signless event. And what we're going to find is that there's 3 groups of raptured sons, the 24 elders, male child, the 144,000 of Israel, and the God-fearers. And 2 of these groups actually will know when they're going to leave because it's not imminent. There's actually a sign and day counts and so on that are attached to it. The rapture of the God-fearers, we don't know the day when that will take place, but we do know the window of time. So this first rapture is not imminent, and it's not signless. It has a sign. In the next video, we're going to look at the 144,000 of Israel and their rapture, and we're going to look at some of their verses. I encourage you to leave a comment in the comment section, and if you have a question, let me know, and we'll see you on another video. Till then, have a blessed day.